Glenn West here. I'm gonna do, oops, hi, Glenn West here again. Hello, I'm Glenn West here again. What the hell is beeping? Hi, my name is Glenn West. You might remember me from such magical cinematic experiences as Chris Mayhew's A Series of Unfortunate Effects, and the tutorial for Twirt. I've done other stuff, sure, somewhere out there. Ooh, Mobius switch, I did that. Anyhow, so today I'm going to show you an ungimmicked impromptu card levitation. Ready? Let's go. You're going to have a card selected, doesn't matter what it is. In this case, we've got two cards stuck together for some fucking reason. For this, we just need a card selected. We'll start with this one right here. Doesn't matter what it is, and doesn't matter if I see it. But if I just warm it up a little bit, you can get it. So, there we go, come right up off the top of the deck. You can even show above and below. And then melts right back down. So like I said, it's impromptu and it's ungimmicked. However, it is incredibly knacky, possibly something you might not even be able to do. And the reason I say that is because it's based off of a trick that I cannot do. Dai Vernon's slow motion card vanish, which you can see here, involves balancing or suspending a card from your thumbnail. And I've never been able to get this done. As a result, actually, I came up with my own slow motion card vanish, which you can see here. And it involves a completely different technique. However, Vernon's slow motion card technique did inspire me to come up with this idea. And by now you may have already guessed, it uses fingernail. This one, right here. And I mention all that, like I said, because I can't do that Vernon one-handed card vanish properly. I imagine it just has to do with the shape of my nail. Everybody's a little bit different, so you may have trouble with this. You may be able to do it, you may not. It's a little knacky, but that's one of the reasons I thought perfect for a free tutorial. Let's get into the specifics here. Since it's impromptu and ungimmicked, you just have them select a card, doesn't matter what it is, turn it face up on top of the deck, but maintain a break under the deck. Probably with your pinky. As your hand is coming over the deck to apparently warm up the card, just kind of wave or rub it as if you're building up a static charge, what you're really doing is allowing that break to open up enough that your middle finger, the flesh of it can go under it, and the card edge can go under the fingernail. And you'll see that's causing it to pop open at the front there, which even if your hand's over it, it'll provide some coverage, but you can eventually maybe see that change. So what I do is I often use the pressure of just the pad of my middle finger to keep that front edge flush with the deck a little bit as I'm waving my hand. But as I'm doing this, I'm also getting my middle finger under there. And there's not an exact technique, I'd say. I just kind of push it, and I've sometimes found that this weird sort of buckling of the card, so I push with my middle finger here, which can cause it to buckle up. This is exposed and exaggerated for you to see. And then my thumb pushes down on the card. Again, that's all done right here, underneath the cover of that hand. And then, as you slowly straighten that middle finger, the card comes off the deck. And it's just balanced, pinched there. That's being done with this hand still above. So, because you'll notice a couple things. One, that front edge will still come up first on that angle, so the card is coming up at this weird angle, but with the hand covering it, they're mainly seeing this side, so it looks like the card is just floating up off the deck. Now you can get some really nice height here, but you expose yourself more. And obviously, even with this hand covering, if they can see underneath, they're gonna see that finger, and that's no good. But with that hand cover, you provide quite a bit of cover that you can get. Well, from that angle, they're not really going to see much, but if you tilt your hand a bit, they can see it and provide a decent viewing range. Now, if your audience is too low, that they're essentially looking right under the deck, like I said, they're going to see what's happening. But you'll notice that as you come around this way, turning your left side to the audience, where the exposed edge here, with this hand can start to come away, and you can actually let them see underneath the card a good amount. Obviously, you don't want to go too far, because they'll eventually see that it looks like it's balancing on the tip of your finger. But as long as they can see the face of the card, they don't see the tip of your finger touching it on the bottom. And you can even take a card out from underneath it and then wave it over top as if to show no threads and slide it back underneath. You may be slightly worried about the fact that your fingernail peeks up over the top of that card there. You may not even be able to see it, but depending on the background, it can become a little bit more apparent My fingernail is actually really short, which helps hide that. But again, also depending on the angle and depending on the lighting, if your fingernails are particularly long, you can actually cast a shadow. Now if you don't feel like cutting them down a bit, then I would simply advise do the float with the hand and maintain the cover. Don't bother trying to milk it and you know, show as much as you can. If you have shorter fingernails and you like keeping your fingernails short enough that they can hold the card but also withstand this sort of scrutiny, then it is an angle that I like to flash. Okay, and I say flash because I only show it momentarily. I've got the majority of the time I'm doing it with this hand over here, and then I come away here, and then maybe as I'm just taking the card out and waving it over and putting it back. But again, that depends on what you can get away with. So you'll have to look at your own fingernail, look at the lighting situation, and be self-aware. Most of the time you're going to be doing it with some sort of cover, you know, hiding the fact that your finger is there or the nail and not exposing that. And if you want, you can do a very quick sort of flash as you're showing the audience and then immediately come back down. Like most, if not all, animation and levitation effects, you want it to be brief, so, you know, float it up. If you want, you can go do the expose over here, bring it back down, and then float it back down. You only want it long enough for the audience to register the effect. Any more than that, and you give them time to start, well, one, thinking too much, and two, start looking around, bending, maybe they're trying to get a peek. Even if they don't actually see anything, the longer they stare at it, the more ideas pop into their head. Levitations and animations can only withstand so much scrutiny, I think, before the audience just says, oh, it is threads. Even if they're not right, they have an explanation, that's all that matters to them. Correct or not, the illusion's destroyed as soon as they think they know how it's done. Don't sit on it too long. It's meant to be a brief, show it, let the effect register, and then bring it down, and then show the card front and back. You can turn it back over or lose it in the deck, but I wouldn't, because chances are they may want to look at it. You've just made the thing float. Because it's impromptu, ungimmicked, you have nothing to hide. It is perfectly clean at the end. You may notice that the edge of the card, especially when you're first practicing and trying to get it again and again, that you're gonna muck up the edge of this. It's gonna be all these nail nicks from you trying. But again, that's probably going to be more prominent at first because you're doing all this practice. Probably on camera, you might not even notice. A little pressure like that, a little wipe, and it flattens it out if you're concerned about, you know, the integrity of your deck. But after a single float of a card, you know, you may notice that little fraying there, but your audience won't. If you are concerned about it, just pick the card up by that and, you know, give it a little flick just to kind of show, look, it's an ordinary card. And, you know, I've undone any minute fraying of the edge that was there. Another important thing to consider, as with many levitations, is lighting. You might think that it shouldn't apply to this because I'm not using threads, but shadow casting is very important. You don't want to be backlit, or rather, more specifically, sort of side lit from the side where the fingers are. Because if you are, then essentially what's going to happen is you're going to get a shadow casted by that finger. And if that shadow extends far enough that the light leak goes past and shows the edge of the card over here, if your shadow for the card's over here, then they're going to see this long shadow of finger going up and touching the card. So you don't want to have too much lighting from the back. Now at the same time, lighting can be used to accentuate the illusion. Now this isn't necessarily the greatest lighting for that, as you'll notice the shadow cast by the card is actually about here, so you can't really see it that well from the camera's position. And the reason I bring this up is because the shadow can actually play a role in giving an illusion of increased depth. Now again, like I said, you can't really tell here, but we're gonna move some lights around and I'll give you an example of what lighting can do and what lighting is good and bad. Now I've moved this light here and adjusted the exposure so you can really see that shadow under there. And it really emphasizes the fact that the card is not on top of the deck. If the light is too far back, then you completely cover the deck with shadow. See a little bit of it leaking through there, and it's not all as clear. But as you can see now, as I move the light further this way to my right, you start seeing that finger. There, I'll exaggerate it so you can see, you can tell that it is one of my fingers. But the shadow itself starts being cast along the length of the deck. So if your light is really far over to the side, you're gonna actually just kind of give yourself away there. And that's obviously something you want to avoid. You'll also possibly notice that you can actually create a shadow of your fingernail on the card. It's very subtle because of how small the fingernail actually is in relationship to the card, but it is just another little possible giveaway, is that it'll create a tiny little shadow there, a little hump, So again, you generally want to avoid your light being over there. Maybe this is good. I don't know. Alright, anyhow, enjoy. I hope you guys really like it. Have fun. Ooh.